Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Inbound Wins podcast. Rosie, Allan, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
yes.
Good, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
Brilliant. No, look, thanks for coming on. I've been sort of having a look at your sort of social media and been taking a look at you for the last few months, and I think it's quite interesting, your journey. And I felt, that it'd be more than appropriate to get you on, because I think there's so many people out there who would, definitely sort of relate to your journey where you started off. Of course, coming from employment, and Allan, I know you're still in employment, but Rosie, you'll be coming out of it, which you explain later on. And whilst doing that, investing in property and of course building your portfolio. So, absolutely, I think your journey will resonate with many people out there, and be a really exciting podcast today. So tell us, for context, tell us a little bit about yourself, for the people that are listening, and give them a little bit of context from the beginning to where you're at right now.
Yeah, so we're Arch Investments. I don't know if you can see the branding. We started investing in property about 3 years ago. I'm still fully employed. Rosie's going to be full-time Arch Investments from January. We do buy-to-lets mostly up in the northwest, but we've got some stuff in Kent where we live as well. Yeah. We're just about to start the refurb on our first HMO, which is a big 12-bed jumping in at the deep end.
Yeah, we'll get onto that actually. Yeah.
Also done a home refurbing at that time as well, so moved into a doer-upper, and are now enjoying a nice new house.
Nice. So your journey, how long ago was that? When did you guys all sort of start off the whole property journey, and where did it all come from, the inspiration to get into it?
Funnily enough, I think it was yesterday or the day before, we had memories on Facebook. 4 years ago, we bought our first house.
Okay. Nice.
And that was our first home. We always said when we buy our first house, we'll kind of save up and try and buy a rental. So we were in the house for probably about a year, saving up for the next property.
Yeah.
And we just went to like a free property seminar where they, sell the dream about you could make this a full-time career and stuff. Yeah. And that kind of opened our eyes a bit more to, well, maybe you don't just have to sit around and save up a deposit for your next house. You can do it a little bit more like a business and make it a full-time job instead of just very organic. So we kicked off, didn't we, really?
Yeah, started. That was about 3 years ago that we started the training. It took us a little while to buy our first investment property from there. It was about 8 months of lots of viewings, going up north every 2-3 weeks, 5 hours journey from us in Kent. So lots of hard work, lots of rejected offers. We weren't sure we were ever going to get there. We were close to giving up, and then we had our first offer accepted, and then it snowballed from there, really.
Yeah, nice. And I was speaking with the podcast I recently done with Justin Wilkins, and I asked him the same question. For you guys, I mean, what made you, did you have in mind in terms of buying your first property to live in? Did you ever question the fact that maybe you should buy somewhere to invest first, or what's your perspective on that, and what's your thought process?
Yes, we looked for an investment for our first home. We were in Gravesend at the time. I was commuting. I was working for TK Maxx in their buying and merchandising team. So I was up in Watford, commuting from Gravesend, which, if anyone knows where either of those places are, it's from one end of London to the other end of London. So it was a long old way. I had to be with walking distance to the station in Gravesend. So we looked everywhere for a possible investment, and we really, really struggled, didn't we?
Yeah, we thought about, because our kind of maximum budget was about 250k for the first house. We thought, well, maybe if we buy like a flat for 125k, do it up, and then buy another one and move into it and rent the other one out. So we kind of looked at that for a little while, but if you know Gravesend, there's plenty of places that are unpleasant. So we had to be a little bit more picky, so we didn't get stabbed on the way home from work. So we ended up having to go with a nice house a bit further out instead of the flat strategy. And we kind of came to the conclusion that with Rosie probably out the house 13 hours a day, and the same for me, if we were living in a doer-upper as our first house, it just never get done.
Yeah.
And we also didn't have the knowledge that we have now. So I think when we were looking at doer-uppers, we weren't thinking, oh, we can put a cheeky offer in and see what we get. Let's go view 20 properties. We were more viewing a house thinking, oh, we'd have to offer asking price and it would only be worth 20,000 more. We'd need to spend 50,000 on it. We were so naive to what you can do with property and how many good deals there are out there, really.
Yeah. I mean, with, you know, a lot of people who do sort of are stuck in between buying to live in first or as an investment. I mean, there are lots of benefits, obviously, in buying your first residential, your first property as a residential. So at that point in time, a lot of people must be wondering, you know, where did the initial sort of lump sum come from? Was it purely from savings? Was it family help? Or, you know, where did it all sort of come from?
Well, you're like a freak of nature. Started saving up for a house deposit when she was about 3 or something.
Really?
I save everything, and I don't like spending anything. So, so that was for the first house. But for the next property, we had a bit of money saved up, which was going towards our wedding. So we started the whole property journey as we got engaged, and were due to. The first training course was in June, and we were getting married in August. And our training courses were not cheap. Let's just say that. So we ended up putting a lot of money towards that, and didn't have a huge amount of money left after the wedding. But what the training courses gave us was this idea of using other people's money. So fairly quickly, we started talking to people about what we were doing, what we were trying to do. And for our first investment property, we funded it cash using investor finance, private investors.
Interesting. Okay, just before we get on to that. So, wait, first of all, what do you guys do, by the way? What you always did? What do you guys do for work at the time when you first started?
So currently I work, until January, I work for a local charity who support blind people in the community. I work in HR, so I'm very by the book, love a process, spreadsheets, all of that, compliance side of things. And then
a short version is I sell like cockpits for aeroplanes.
Okay, interesting.
So it's a bit more entrepreneurial, a bit more risk taking and stuff. So we're quite well balanced.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you definitely sort of complement each other with that. So do you feel, you know, from what you've sort of learned in your employment and your sort of journey prior to that, did that help in any way, you know, getting into property, or, you know, from that perspective, especially, for example, buying your first residential, was there any sort of financial logic behind it in terms of, am I looking at this as an investment, or was this purely an emotional purchase? I know there's other things factored in, such as commute, of course, your working hours. Did anything, you know, your prior experience, did that help in getting into property at all before you went on to the courses, etc.?
I think our first property was a bit of a rubbish purchase, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
it was fully emotional.
Yeah.
As I said, you know, we didn't have a lot of choice in nice places to live in Gravesend. So this house came up and it fitted perfectly with exactly everything we wanted. So we were buying with our heart instead of our head, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, I kind of went into it thinking oh, I know how to negotiate. I'm going to get us a cracking deal here. And ended up negotiating like $5,000 off the asking price.
Really? So yeah, talk us through the numbers on that one. So this was 4 years ago. Did you look at many different properties before that purchase? Because I know you said you're looking at maybe a flat in Gravesend. You went further out. I think I've seen the back of the house on Instagram. So it's quite, it's a really nice place and a nice area. So yeah, what was the process for that purchase?
So we viewed about 4 or 5 houses before that one, didn't we?
Yeah.
And
so they all came with quite a few strings attached, really.
Yeah. So this one is sort of a 1970s build. It needed decoration. That was it. A bit of painting. That was all. And that, to be fair, at the time, that's probably all we knew how to do. First time buyers, no DIY skills really. Alan's looking at me, enraged.
I had thousands of hours on DIY in that house.
Yeah. So it was on the market for 250,000, and at the time, I don't know if it's still in place. They had some sort of incentive where if you saved in an ISA for so long, they would give you a bit of money.
It's like first time buyer ISA, where they give you 25% extra on top of whatever you save in that ISA. So we both had those. The extra money we got from it was like 1,500 quid or something. It wasn't groundbreaking, but everything helps. So when it's your first house,
yeah. So we went to view it. Thought, we've not seen anything as nice as this. Let's put an offer in. And I think
it was quite funny actually, because we always pick up on, you can, like, estate agents are like an open book. I find it really easy to read. And we went to view this house. The lady that showed us around was, I don't know, she was creeping towards 60, I would say. And she kind of looked at us a bit like, what were we, like 23 at the time or something?
Yeah, 23.
And she was almost like, well, you obviously can't afford to buy this house. So she was really short and a bit like, oh yeah, just go and look around. I'll wait outside in the car.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. And well, whenever we view stuff up north, as soon as they hear the southern accent, they're a bit like, right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually on for 20 grand more than I mentioned on the phone.
Yeah, it's interesting, the dynamic, isn't it? They just assume everyone, has a lot of money. But then that's interesting, because I had no idea. So you were 23 when you bought the first property. Wow.
24, yeah. But yeah.
4 years ago, so 23, 24.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's really good. And it's actually interesting that, you've gone through that experience because that does happen a lot. Because I'm relatively young as well, and speaking with agents for the first time, they're just like, you're just wasting our time. Some might turn around, give you a bit of information. They won't bother following up. They won't bother sending you any sort of brochures or anything. So that's quite cool. So you got through that. But 4 or 5 properties viewed before you buy your prime residence is not a lot. You get a lot of people who look at so many.
Yeah.
Let's go for that one. So you've gone through those 4 or 5 viewings. What was the sort of...
Well, there was quite a lot of filtering that went on Rightmove before we decided to buy view.
Because, as I say, with the train station, I had to be walking distance to the train station. So our perimeter was so small that not much came up within our price range that we liked. So 5 seemed like enough. And to be fair, when we moved into our current home, which is our second residential, we only viewed 1. So we've really got it down to a fine art of finding exactly what we want now. Because we see so many up north, we can sort of pinpoint when an agent puts a picture up with, an ad up with hardly any photos, you know that it means it's pretty bad. And
my favourite photo from the house we're in now, when they marketed it, they took a picture of next door's garden and put it up, because this one was like chest deep in stinging nettles, and they've kind of taken a picture from the bedroom window of next door's garden. You can just see in the bottom corner how bad this garden was. It's just you learn all the little tricks that the estate agents use, and that's what made us work out that we wanted to come and see this one. And it was back close to our hometown of Canterbury, just on the outskirts.
Okay. Yeah.
It was right. It was. We first viewed it 2 years ago, so Brexit was kind of looming. The market was really rubbish. They'd had an offer collapse on the property. It was actually being sold by the zoo that is just over the road from us.
Okay.
So it was just a 4-bed house, and it was a complete wreck. So we kind of figured that anyone who's going to want to move into a 4-bed house in the countryside is probably going to have kids and probably won't want to move into somewhere that's borderline habitable. So it was quite a very, very small target audience that would be able to go for that house. So we managed to get a very good deal on it.
So was that the second one, residential?
Yeah, it's the second one.
So this is our second home. This wasn't our investment property as such.
Yeah.
Not part of our portfolio, but our second home. But we kept the Gravesend house to form part of the portfolio.
Okay, so the Gravesend house, you 4 or 5 viewings, you then decided to commit to buying it, went through it. Was there much work that needed to be done on that one at all? You just said it.
No, so the person that lived in it was, the reason it was up for sale was because he died. And it hadn't been decorated or anything for 30 odd years.
Right.
The family put new carpets in to try and help sell it, but it was really just decorative, wasn't it?
Yeah, we painted and that was about it. It could have done with a new kitchen, but we couldn't afford it at that point, so we left it as it was. It was a white gloss kitchen. It was fine. So no, it was largely just painting.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of external garden stuff to sort out, because the guy was really into gardening, but because he got too old, it just got out of control. So there was quite a lot of gardening stuff to do, but it was decoration inside mainly.
Yeah.
You done that, and then how long did you live there? How long were you there for?
3 years.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years, and then now is it just currently rented out?
Yeah, currently rented out.
Okay, cool. So from there, you then rolled into your second residential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, because a lot of people must be wondering, so how did you go from that one to the second one? Was there any, did you sort of refinance? Was it savings? What was the next sort of jump? And what made you, just after 2 years, it's like, oh, you'd think you'd be there for a few years and then...
Well, this is my favourite story.
Yeah,
right?
great.
The whole reason that we were living in Gravesend, the only one reason, was because Rosie had to commute to Watford. 3 days before we completed on the house, she handed her notice in. So we lived in Gravesend for 2 years for no reason. And not a pleasant place to live for most people.
Yeah.
Central Gravesend, it wasn't the best.
I remind her about it all the time.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So wasn't great. So hence the 2 years. We stayed there for as long as we needed to, and then we moved on. So between moving from there to here, we had started our property portfolio up north.
Okay, makes sense. So in between moving to this one, you now began the journey of exploring property investment.
Yeah, and started our buy-to-let portfolio of a few properties up north.
Yeah. So talk us through that one. So you've got the one in Gravesend. 2 years has passed. During the 2 years, that's when you sort of started exploring the investment.
Yeah, about a year into living in that first home.
Yeah. So what was the genesis moment? Was it just was it the seminars, the networking events? What was it that?
Yeah, it was a
rabbit hole of seminars.
Yeah. Good training. Sold the dream, as Allan said. We could make something of this. And we're not, I'm very analytical. As Allan said, I save all my money. I'm not one to just splurge. So it was quite unusual for us to just go, right, let's do it. Let's part with our money and do these training courses. But luckily it's paid off for us in the long run.
Yeah. Of course, I always say, there are some really good trainers out there, and of course, it's some with a few question marks on it. But I think you can definitely get value from, these individuals. One thing there is a question mark, obviously, is the, continuous sort of rabbit hole you can go down with, and not taking any action and not actually doing what you want. That's just insane, isn't it? So for you, you went on the what was it? Was it like a weekender? Was it like a mentorship?
Yeah, so we did a 3-day thing over the weekend where there's the upsell for the next few weekends worth of courses and the mentorship and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it's funny because, like Rosie said, she doesn't like spending money on anything, and I think I'm immune to sales tactics because I sell stuff as well. Yeah. But we were both like, this is life changing, we should do it.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because I went to a few, and I've been involved in a few as well. And especially when you know what's going on behind the scenes, it's crazy how you can still feel that urge to. I think now they get you to go to the back of the room or something like that. You can still get that urge. It's like, what the hell? It's like literally, mind controlling.
Absolutely, so clever. Amazing.
Yeah. So for you, so on that day, you did you sign up on the day for this seminar? I think that's how it typically works, isn't it?
Yeah. They give you a huge discount, obviously, if you sign up on the day.
for this day only.
Yeah.
Fair play. Went to a weekend. What did it cover? Did it cover sort of all the different strategies, or?
Oh, we lost you there for a second. Sorry.
No, what I said was, what did it cover? Did it cover all the different strategies, or?
Yeah, so we signed up for, I think it was like 3 or 4 weekends worth of training, and you could pick the topics that it covered.
So we did distressed property, learning about doing up houses effectively. We did a creative finance course, which was all about angel investment. What else did we do?
Lease options.
Lease options, that was another good one. And then a generic, all of the strategies rolled into one, like a brief overview of all of them.
Yeah, okay. Look, just good. Sounds like good topics, I suppose, from what you mentioned. Okay, and of course, it looks like you actually went and took action. So from there, what was the journey? So you've done those programs. You've got the highs now, sort of slowly going down now. What were your thoughts now? So talk us through it. Did you sort of plan now, right? We need to do this and that, or was it just sort of a slow burner, just building up to it?
Well, we didn't do them all in one go and then try and go and buy properties. We kind of did the first sort of generic one, like Rosie said, and we were doing loads of viewings and trying to buy something. I think we did the distressed property one before we actually got our first property. But I think so. We signed up in like the June of 2017, and then we got our first offer accepted in March 2018. Yeah. So it was quite a long time as Rosie said, we went up to Merseyside every 2 or 3 weeks and did 15, 16 viewings a weekend and put offers out on everything, and it was soul destroying, really, that we weren't getting anywhere. But I think it was like Easter weekend, we saw a property where we got to meet the vendor, and he was trying to sell his mum's house that was a complete wreck, and it was overpriced. We thought we'd never get it, but we put an offer in anyway. And just kind of over time, the price was tumbling down, and we kept kind of texting him to say, "Oh, we're still interested at this price." And about 8 months after we first viewed it, he called Rosie and said, "Look, I really need to get it gone now. I'll sell it to you at the price that you've had for forever. If you're still interested." So it was almost like one of the first houses we ever saw that took 8 months to back, and then it was good.
Yeah, so it was all on the follow up with that one, which is vital with property investing generally. Always follow up on everything, because that's how you get the deals.
No, definitely, that is testament to persistence as well. Many people actually, it's insane, because like I said, I've got a very small team who source properties across the country for me, and just once they get a few no's, it's like the end of the world. And I think that's probably with a lot of people. But when it does come to property, and especially if you're wanting to get thousands of pounds off a price of somebody's prime asset, the biggest asset that they've got, there is a bit more to it, and it's not just going to happen like that. Unless, of course, there's circumstances in their personal lives, whatever it may be, that's driving them to, of course, offer a discount. But absolutely, you've got to keep that pipeline and keep that persistence with anything, I suppose. You got that deal. Did you end up moving on it? So you got the call 8 months later. How did you feel as well? It must have been like, wow.
So much relief.
Yeah, because we waited so long for something, and we'd had one before that accepted, but it fell through because the mortgage lender went to value it, and it actually was subsiding. So for a first property, we thought absolutely not, we can't take that one on. So we moved on. So this was the second one we'd had accepted, and we went ahead with it. Again, it wasn't the best deal in the world. At the end of it, the numbers weren't as fantastic as our other deals, but it was the first one. It got us going, and we learnt an awful lot, as you do with anything you do first time round.
Yeah. What were the numbers like for that one? So it's up in Liverpool, that one.
Yeah, on the Wirral. Yeah, so all of our buy-to-lets are on the Wirral, just over from Liverpool.
Why is that, out of curiosity?
Good question. So when we started looking for places to invest, and everyone will tell you finding an investment area, if it's not your hometown, where do you begin? So we started by going to Birmingham and having a look around there to see what we thought. Allan had lived there for a little while with work. We liked Birmingham, so we thought, let's go have a look. It was overpriced, and anything we went to view, it had gone within days, and we thought this doesn't work. So we went a bit further north, went to Liverpool, which was great, but there's so many investors in Liverpool now, and 3 years ago when we started, it was insane, the investor market up there. The estate agents didn't really have an awful lot of time for you because they had so many investors that were interested in buying. And so they weren't willing to give us any time at all. So we thought, let's look a bit further out than Liverpool. And we looked at a few areas, did the numbers, and the Wirral worked for us. I mean, no deals on the Wirral. If anyone's listening, don't come to the Wirral. But it just worked. The numbers stacked, and the agents had a bit more time for you because there wasn't loads of investors there. We liked the houses, we liked the people. So it just worked, didn't it?
Yeah, the other thing we found with Liverpool is, like, on one street, a house could be worth 120k, and then literally at the end of that street, the same house could be worth 80k.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult to get a level of confidence about the numbers of the deal that we thought, we will be taking quite a significant amount of risk every time we put an offer in. Whereas on the Wirral, the market is a little bit more stable. It's a little bit easier to predict what numbers, what done up values and stuff you're going to get. Yeah. As Rosie said, the estate agents were a lot more friendly to investors, and it was a lot easier to get an understanding of what's going on in the area and stuff.
Yeah, it does skew your sort of your figures a little bit when I think most areas up north, isn't it? One road is 65k and the other road is 110. It's like, what's going on here? So just to touch on that about end value. So your strategy for those that are listening essentially is to buy dilapidated properties, get them to a certain standard, and then of course achieve the end value to recycle your cash by pulling it out, refinancing, and then going again. Essentially, that was
that's exactly it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what made you go down that route as opposed to because you are renting those out, right?
Yeah.
So what made you go down that route as opposed to perhaps maybe flipping, selling it on, things like that, for instance, just for people who are wondering which path I should take?
Cash flow is quite important for us. The whole reason we got into doing property was to see it as an avenue to replace at least one of our jobs in the future.
Yeah.
So the idea being that if and when we decide to have children in a few years' time, then one of us can be at home if we choose to.
Yeah. Okay. So
we were really focused on buying stuff to rent out, so we could one of us could get out of the day job.
Yeah. Okay. So with those, the figures on that was what were the figures? Sorry, on the one in
the first house, we bought it for 75. We spent about 25 on it, and it was worth 110 at the end. So
very tight.
Yeah, exactly. We were hoping there were a lot of so there was a completely new build estate being built on that road, and our house was like the last one before the new build estate was built, and they were going for sort of 125 to 140. So we thought, we'll be safe at 120. But we had a bit of a rubbish surveyor, so I'm more than confident it's worth 120, 125. But at the time, they were only willing to give us a valuation of 110.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the end of the world. We put some of our own money in, so our own money was left in the deal, and we moved on to the next one.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. So with the first one, did you raise? That's when you started to raise capital from.
Yeah. So that we wanted to get a mortgage on it, but it was unmortgageable because there was no central heating system. There was a significant amount of damp and all sorts of other problems. So that threw a spanner in the works, like at the 11th hour, because, being newbies and stuff, you're not quite sure what constitutes mortgageable and what doesn't in the buy-to-let sense. So the mortgage got rejected, and then we had to find the cash for it in, I don't know, a week or something. Wow. Which is a bit stressful, but managed to do it.
Okay. And how did you do it? So
we from the very beginning, we have always told everyone what we do. Our poor families, my poor family in particular, we tell them about everything we're doing all the time. So
honestly, as soon as someone mentions a word that begins with P near Rosie, everyone's head just hits the table like, you started her off now.
Well, that's really good.
Passionate. It's a good thing. So we told friends, family, everyone, and it was getting to the point where it was starting to be a bit embarrassing because we were 9 months in, we'd been talking about it for 9 months and we hadn't done anything. So when we finally got something, people were interested.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of friends invest and also someone from social media that we didn't know. So yeah, it was. We put it out there on social media, and social media has been fantastic for us since that point. We've ramped it up and done really well with investors from it. So advice to anyone out there, get yourself on social media. It doesn't matter if you've not done any deals yet, just start posting.
Yeah. Okay. So that's quite interesting. I think the best people to go to first for any type of venture is definitely sort of your family, because they know, they trust you, and of course they know what you're about, which I think I would advise anyone, anyone who's looking to get support, whether that be financially, whatever it may be, definitely start off with your family, because it is overlooked, Of course, you've done that one. So it's a mixture between raised finance and your finance. Got into it, refinanced it. Now you've gone on to property 2.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So similar sort of structure with this one again, or did you work with the same investor in your funds, or?
Yeah, so the first investor that we got actually committed to 3 years investing in the business. So we kind of just recycle their money over and over into the next deals that come along.
So our next deal was a flat, a ground floor flat, which we went to see it through an estate agent. And we weren't really interested in flats. We were more interested in buying the whole building if we were going to buy this flat. So we asked the question: Is the freeholder interested in selling the block? And they went back, spoke to the vendor, and he was, but he was interested in selling them off one at a time as they came vacant. Now that was perfect for us because we were still very new. We didn't have loads of cash to buy all three at once. And that was for his capital gains reasons, that he wanted to sell one a year as they became vacant. So that's what we agreed on that one. And we've actually just finished the third flat in the block. That's how many flats there were, 3. So that's kept us going for 3 years, really, which has been a really nice deal and our best yet in terms of money in, money out, as close as possible. So it's been a brilliant one.
Yeah, that's really.
Andy's got about 10 other houses that he's going to shift off to us as they come vacant as well.
Yeah.
Easy. So it just proved, 8, 9, 10 months of graft has led to obviously this moment. Talk us through the numbers, because I think a lot of people are probably juggling the fact that how did you structure that type of deal in the first place? So talk us through that.
So we didn't formalise it as a lease option. We tried, but he wasn't. To tie him down is quite difficult, this bloke. So we sort of did it on handshake. We would buy one a year, and
he's so laid back. He's basically laid down.
Yeah. So we agreed the purchase price on the first one of 40,000, and agreed to purchase each one for 40,000, one a year. So the building was 120,000. And
it's worth saying that it's like this really nice 3-story Victorian house that's been converted into 3 massive flats with like 12-foot ceilings and stuff. It's not, when we say block of flats, it doesn't sound that glamorous, but it is one of our favourite properties.
Which we post about a lot on Instagram. If anyone follows us on Instagram, they'll know the building. It's always on there. So yes, so we mitigated our risk by purchasing the best one first. So if he decided not to sell us the rest, at least we'd got, because the first one was worth quite a bit more than 40,000, but the top floor flat was the last one we bought and was possibly worth 40,000 to us anyway. So that's how we structured it. Bought each one for 40,000, did a refurb, and then at the end they are worth 75.
75 each.
Yeah, so I think probably an average across all 3: buy them for 40, spend 15, and they're worth 70.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of return.
Yeah, I think so. Now we're probably a couple of months away from doing the refinance on the last one, but we're confident getting 75. The road actually that we bought on, it's kind of like a monopoly board of investors now. We tried to buy about 4 other buildings on that road, but none of them have been as good a deal as we've got. But the good thing about it is it was a road that was kind of like on the edge of a nice area, but it had a little bit of a reputation for being a bit rough. But over the 3 years, it's almost exclusively owned by investors now that do work to a very similar standard to us. So the road has come up in like standard quite significantly over the time period as well. So we've been a bit lucky in that respect. But with the cash flow that has been coming in from the other 2 properties, when we refinance the third one, we'll probably be all money out across the whole building. So it's been pretty good, yeah.
That's really good. And sorry, go on.
Sorry, another interesting point on this one was by the time we'd got to the third flat, we knew the vendor very well. Now the third flat was in the worst condition, so it wasn't actually mortgageable because it had no central heating. We weren't going to try and go through that again and try and get a mortgage on it, and it failed at the 11th hour. So we spoke to the vendor and said, how do you fancy financing it for us? And he did. So he funded, we put the deposit down of 10,000 and he has funded the rest of the deal. So at a considerable amount less than we would pay an angel investor. So that one was our first vendor finance, which has been very exciting.
No, cool. That's really, so that block essentially, you pretty much learn so much within, a short space of time. If you were to do single units and so forth and so forth. Do you think that's testament to obviously the training that you've done, or was it just, as you went on, you were just picking up on things? And did you get any support around you? Who were the major sort of what was which resources did you use in fact, along this journey? Because there's a lot of moving parts to it, to what you've just said there.
Yeah, I think the trainings and stuff opened our eyes to vendor finance, for example. We wouldn't think in a million years that you can buy a property from someone and they give you the mortgage to buy the house off them. That's just kind of crazy. So yeah, doing the training kind of opened our eyes to stuff like that, as well as there was quite a lot of focus on you can always come up with a win-win situation with you and the seller. And if you kind of spend time talking to them and listening to, what their motivation is, you'll have more of a chance of securing the property if you can tick their boxes. And it might not be obvious through the estate agent what their boxes are. And for this guy in particular, it was about his capital gains, because he bought the building in like 1970 for £900.
Really?
And he sold it for 120k, so he had a lot of capital gains tax to pay. So that's why I wanted to do one at a time. And because we were able to talk to him about it and kind of understand it, I think if we hadn't done the training, we would have just been happy to keep going through the estate agent, and we probably wouldn't have got the deal. That's
been key to every single one of our deals. I know a lot of people do brilliantly through estate agents, but for us, we've managed to get direct to vendor on everything we bought, which has meant we can build that relationship, and that relationship has been everything. So yeah, every single one, without fail, we have got to know the vendor, and it's that know, like, and trust thing. When you get to know someone, you don't want to screw them over. So we've managed to get everything through to the finish line.
Yeah, I think it's so important for those that are listening that just identifying someone's need and why exactly they're selling. I think it's because everyone just asks the question to the agent, why are they selling? But they don't actually understand why they actually asking that question. Is it just they're just saying it because it's scripted, or if you actually understand why you're saying it, it will definitely sort of save any type of deal or get you to the position where you can agree a lucrative deal by just purely understanding why is the person doing what they're doing, which is quite cool. So you've gone from that one. Was that in Wirral?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Fair play. So I know a lot of people down south will be thinking 35k for a flat. Yeah. Okay. Fair play. So you've gone from that. You are now pretty much in the position where you're going to be refinancing the last one soon.
Yeah.
What was next after that one?
So we did another buy-to-let in the meantime, while that was all going on, and we started thinking about bigger deals. So because we've had such success with direct to vendor, we thought, right, let's do what we've been taught and do a leaflet campaign. So we came up with this little handwritten letter by me.
I know we did proper leaflets before. We were walking around posting these leaflets through doors and stuff. like professionally designed leaflets,
Yeah.
which we didn't have any success with at all, other than text messages to say, stop sending crap through my letterbox, please.
Yeah. So we tried these little handwritten letters with my name at the bottom of it and a smiley face sort of thing. We're interested in buying your house. If you're ever interested, let us know. And instead of doing them by hand ourselves, I found a local leafleter who went and posted 3,000 of them for us. I gave them specific areas. They went off to do it. And we got so many phone calls, which was really difficult because I was working full time at the time. Allan was working full time. You had this phone that was constantly ringing, and I wasn't able to get back to them because I was at work. So in the evenings, I was trying to get back to all these people. It was a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, one of these phone calls was for another block of flats, which is our HMO deal that we have been working on since we had the offer accepted in May 2019. So
we're starting the refurb after Christmas.
Yeah, so it's been a long old slog, hasn't it, really? We've had all sorts of problems with planning and getting it through to completion because we exchanged subject to planning. Yeah. So 18 months on, we have now completed. We completed last month. And as Allan said, refurb starts in January. So that will be 2 6-bed HMOs.
2 6-bed HMOs. Okay.
Yeah, because we couldn't get the planning for the 12-bed, so we're using our permitted development rights to do two 6-beds.
Okay. No, fair play. And again, is that also in Wirral as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. What are your thoughts on diversifying? I suppose, do you see yourself moving away from that area in the next few years or so, or is it a case of why change what's working sort of thing?
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I was going to say that, we're going to focus more time and effort in Kent. Okay. So we've kind of found a bit of a niche in the, really tall, big, sort of Victorian type buildings that are carved up into flats. As Rosie said, we've kind of got 2 of those big buildings that combined is 7 flats. So there's some areas in Kent that are very, very similar to the Wirral, and they've got really, really tall 4 or 5 story beautiful buildings that are flats, and we've found quite a lot, haven't we, that are all still like on a single freehold title. They've not been split up on land registry, so we're going to focus a bit more in the future on that kind of strategy in Kent. Because just purely for time purposes, we can focus a lot more effort, and it's much easier when it's close to time.
And with everything that's happened this year with COVID, we've struggled with travelling up, because ordinarily we've got a nice couple that we go and stay in an Airbnb in their spare room. We've got to know them really well. We go out for drinks, we go bowling. We can't do that anymore. So we either pay for a hotel, which is more expensive. As Allan said, I don't like to spend money. So we've struggled. We've gone up there and back in a day because of the rules of lockdown. We've not been able to stay. So it's made us reassess our strategy a bit and actually investing close to home. Now we've got that good grounding and the backing from some really good investors. To start with, we would never have dreamed of going and buying a building for 300, 400, 500,000. But now it feels a bit more within our reach because we've got that backing from investors.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kent, because some of the best deals I done with my clients have been in sort of Kent. I'm not sure I should mention the area exactly, but no, I'm just kidding. Similar, I think we had a chat off camera. I think North Kent is such a fantastic sort of pocket, within the southern sort of region, just because there's parts of North Kent where it's less than 40 minutes into central London, into King's Cross. You can pick up 2-3 bedroom houses for less than 200 grand, and they're still achieving rents as a single there of £850 to £1,000.
Yeah.
I think the only other areas that used to perform. What's that?
Sorry, I say our best renter, cash flow wise, is our Gravesend house.
Yeah.
We cash flow like £650 a month profit.
It's £1,000 rental, which is pretty good.
And if anyone's interested in investing in Gravesend, I'll do a great deal on 2-bed. 22 minutes into central London from Gravesend.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. It's insane how it hasn't actually been. I think if you're from that area, I suppose, because there is a lot of competition amongst investors. I remember when I first got into that market, I think it was like 2018, late 2018. And I was just like, why isn't everyone actually focusing on this market? And since then, I mean, one client of mine, I think we've done 6 properties there, in the last 18 months, just because of, just the benefit of it. If you're from the south, finding the northern type prices down south is very difficult, and achieving such high rents. So I think it's a definite market. I'm excited to see what you will come up with over the next few months. But I think coming to to summarize, I think there's a lot to take away from this. What would be some of the things, for example, the biggest sort of challenges you faced on the journey so far? Where have you had moments where you were just like, how do you think we can do this? You're doing a refurb, things are going wrong, or for example, just the mortgage applications, submitting it, you're paying your 450, 500, whatever it is, the valuation fee, the mortgage broker fee, and then it comes back as unmortgageable. I mean, how did it feel going through all of that? For some, it must be like, this isn't for me.
Well, there was a point in time. I always say, everyone assumes, you've got all these houses now, you must be balling. But I've never felt so broke in my life as when I've invested in property. Just like the cash flow spinning of plates is so difficult to manage. There was a point in time, I think we had like 3 refurbs on the go. We were in the process of buying something else, and we had survey fees. We were hemorrhaging like 6-7 grand a week on refurbs, surveys, conveyancing costs, all of that sort of cash flow. You're just about making it work every month. You just, can't go out anywhere, can't buy yourself anything nice. You just 15 hours a day working, just thinking, why are we doing this? It's so difficult.
On the positive, it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, we came out the other side of it.
Because, and that's it. It's longer term thinking. We realise it's tough at the minute, and that's what we would say as advice to anyone. Property, it's quite simple. What you actually have to do in property, the steps are fairly simple, but it's not easy. It's hard graft, and it takes a lot to get up and keep going when you get so many rejections. As Allan said, cash flow is all over the place. It's tough, but if you can keep going, that's when the success comes, because if you can push forward, it's totally worth it, and you're working towards something bigger. Yeah,
no, that's really, really good. And I think what most people are probably thinking, or maybe people who are coupled up, what's it like, working with your loved one, spouse, for example? What's the dynamic like on a day-to-day basis? Is there ever a point where you completely switch off, or is it 24/7? Because you are essentially business partners and also partners outside of that. So what's it like? What's the dynamic like?
Still got the divorce lawyer on speed dial. I think it's a lot better now that Rosie's been part-time on our investments and now going into full-time. It's been so much better since we've got that set up, because before we were both working full-time jobs, and then it was like 3-4 hours in the evenings, and then every single weekend non-stop that we'd have to work on the property business. But now Rosie can bear a lot of the burden throughout the week. It does give us a lot more freedom and a lot more of like a normal life. in the evenings and the weekends.
So I'm very much the doer. So I deal with all the letting agents, the estate agents, the utility, anything that needs phone calls or emails. I do the admin side of things. It's a lot more than just admin, I always tell Alan, but all that side of things. Alan, we work together on the strategy and where we want the business to go. And I do a lot of the legwork because I have the time to do it. So we've managed to get that sorted really this last year or so.
Yeah. And what advice would you give, a couple who's going into property right from the beginning? What advice would you give them? And of course, things that you might highlight that they might run into on the journey.
I think kind of agreeing who's going to be responsible for what, because as you've like Rosie and I are almost like polar opposites in what we're good at and what we're bad at. And it took us a little while to get to a point where we were just happy to let each other kind of look after particular areas of the business. And since we've done that, it's worked much, much better. But when both of you are trying to do everything and one of you is terrible at chasing solicitors or filling out application forms, like me, and I'm just getting a kick in all the time from Rosie that I haven't done my job, you just kind of like falling over each other and getting in each other's way, and it doesn't really work. So trying to work out what you're both good at and just agree what sort of parts of the business each of you are going to look after, I think works really well. We did this wealth dynamics sort of personality assessment thing.
Okay.
And it kind of tells you what areas of business that you're good at. And it was fun because I came out like there's this big chart. It's got all these different types of personalities on it, and I came out like this big spike at the top in the creative front end sort of part of the business, and Rosie this big spike at the bottom about actually doing stuff. So we were literally polar opposites.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I think because you are opposites, you definitely complement each other, and one takes care of one aspect of the business, and the other does the other. It's a perfect fit, isn't it? Okay, no worries at all. I suppose I think it's been really interesting because, like I said, I've been sort of taking a look at your journey probably since around March this year, and I've just found it really interesting. And I know a lot of people will resonate with the journey, and just picking up some things I didn't even know that you guys done, which is quite cool. What's the plan now for ARC Investments? Let's say the next 5 years from now. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? In fact, 24 months is sort of 5 years. Where do you see yourself? What's the plan?
So we're really hoping to ramp things up as of January because I'll be full time. There's no excuses. We're in this full on now. So bigger projects. We're taking a step back from our little buy-to-lets. We've built a good foundation of buy-to-lets, but we're really interested in greater cash flow. So
the landlord we mentioned about the 3 flats we bought, he's got about 10 other properties that he's wanting to get rid of. So we'll hopefully kind of get 2-3 of those every year, buy-to-lets. Then we'll focus our efforts on getting bigger projects like 3-4 flats in a big block, and we can carve them up and sell some off, keep some for rentals down in the south.
And then we've been toying since lockdown. Our house is currently on the market, our home. Whether or not we decide to sell it, I don't know yet. But we're looking at possible options for self-builds, which hopefully in the next couple of years we'll have more of an idea of where we're going with that. We've seen lots of property people, who are used to doing refurbs, do that sort of thing, self-builds. So that's another exciting one, hopefully in the pipeline.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time looking for the next house for us as a home, trying to look for something that needs a significant amount of refurb work, that's bigger than what we have now, has got a bit more. It's really been difficult to find something that fitted our criteria. So, yeah, we're now looking into building something ourselves.
Nice. Okay. No, brilliant. And lastly, I would say, what are the 3 things you need to have a successful property business, or at least what you guys are doing? What are 3 things that are key? Hard to funnel it down, but
I think you need a partner, in my view, whether that's a business partner, a friend, or just someone who's going to keep you accountable. Because as we said before, it was 8 months of horrendously difficult graft to get our first deal, and if I was doing that on my own, I would have found 400 excuses why I wasn't going to drive to Liverpool and do that. But because we have each other to kind of keep each other accountable, that's what's helped push us forward quite a lot.
I think a second thing would be belief that you can make it work. In terms of financing, that's always the question we get asked on Instagram, wherever else. How do you finance these deals? If you're telling people what you're doing and people are interested in what you're doing, you'll find the funds. This year, we'd intended to fund this HMO project, basically 100% bridge with a little bit of our own funds. We've managed to 100% fund it, angel finance, because people are watching what we're doing and liking it and want to get involved, which is fantastic. So just believe that the money's out there, the deals are out there, all you've got to do is go and find it. And the third point?
I don't know, really. I think I would say the direct to vendor stuff that we talked about. It's really easy to say, oh yeah, I'll just do direct to vendor. Even if by direct to vendor you're looking at properties that are for sale on Purple Bricks or other type of estate agent platforms where the vendor is going to be doing the viewing.
Yeah.
Every single property we've bought has been it's negotiating directly with the vendor, whether the estate agent does the introduction or we find the house ourselves. That is the way that you're going to get the best deals, whether you're going to do a leaflet campaign or going on Gumtree, calling up people from Facebook groups that are trying to sell their houses and stuff. Before the estate agent gets in there and sets ridiculous expectations for how much their house is worth, just get direct to vendor and try and build a relationship, try and get them to trust you. And if you've got integrity and you're likable, then you should be able to negotiate a win-win from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. I think
been great.
No worries at all. I think next time we definitely need to maybe come down to one of your sites and just have sort of a content day sort of thing. I think that'd be
absolutely
at some point. Perhaps maybe the HMO in Jan. But yeah, where can people find you on the socials?
Instagram is our big one, so Arch Investments is our username. I don't know if that's what it's called. We're also on Facebook or
just starting to get into LinkedIn a bit as well.
Yeah, and then our website is www.arch-investments.co.uk. Sorry. So anyone who wants to reach out to us, we always love to chat property, as I've said a lot. Always good to connect, but Instagram's our main one.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that session with Rosie and Allan, and I look forward to, of course, speaking with you guys on the next one. See you guys all soon. Thanks, Rosie. Thanks, Allan.
Thank you.
Thank you.